going on, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes, and today we got an unboxing. So let's take a look. Who's got some clues on who might have sent me something? From Michael in New Jersey to Rich in New York. Just realizing I have a camera visible in my shot here. Probably not over there, and probably not over here, but there. So, nice package, all boxed up. Let's go ahead and unbox it. Looks like it's about time for me to get a new blade in my utility knife here. Alright, so far so good. Nothing seems too wet. The box doesn't seem like it's been too beat up. Inside we got some cellulose insulation, a heat pack that is still barely warm to the touch. I would say it's not even warmer than room temperature, actually. Some of the cellulose insulation, which makes a big mess. Let's see. And we got movement in the bag. That is always a good thing. And in here we got a beautiful golden ram that Mike from Michael's Fish Room sent me. Mike and I have been talking lately. He has been... Well, this bag is actually wet. Something leaked a little bit, but the fish is no worse for the wear. That is a big, sizable ram. This guy has to be nearing the end of his life just based on his size alone. Where the hell is that leak coming from? It almost seems like it's leaking through the side of the bag. Is that even possible? I don't think it is. But Mike and I have been talking. If you don't know Michael's Fish Room, go check out Michael's Fish Room at his YouTube channel. I'll put a link over there. Maybe it's over there. Down there. You'll find it. You click the button. I'll put it again at the end too. Go check out Mike from Michael's Fish Room. He's got a really awesome fish room. It dwarfs mine in size. And Mike is solely focused on breeding, I believe. And he's got a single ram. And obviously he's not going to breed this with any of his guppies or his angelfish. Seriously, where is that leak coming from? You guys see that? It's like leaking out of the side of the bag. How is that possible? I just went over that. It's not possible, right? In the hell? It's a good thing Mike double bagged this. I think there's a tiny puncture in the bag here, and there's definitely dripping. The more I'm holding it, the more I'm losing, which is definitely not good because I'm allowing air to enter into the bag. One of the biggest dangers when you receive shipped fish is that ammonia tends to possibly build up in the bag during shipping, and the pH levels can change in the bag, and once you open up the bag and allow oxygen into it, you can dramatically alter the pH levels, which can cause the ammonia to spike. It is quite a dangerous phenomenon, which is why more and more people lately, I don't know about lately, more and more people that I know of at the very least, are recommending the drop and plot method of acclimation as opposed to, say, a drip acclimation or a long extended period of acclimation when introducing a fish into a new tank. The drop and plot method is allowing the fish to reach the same temperature as whatever tank it is you plan on putting him in, and then opening the bag and getting him right into that tank immediately. You plop and drop him right into the tank, and that's the end of it. And that way, any ammonia that might have been in the bag that suddenly gets increased once the oxygen enters the bag when you open everything up won't be harmful to the fish, won't reach harmful levels. You can also use a drop of prime or any other kind of water conditioner. Don't drop the fish on the floor either, that's not good. Hopefully the other cameras caught the fact that it didn't hit the floor, but any kind of prime or any water conditioner that can handle ammonia. Well, it's a lesson for Mike too. He probably could have used a tiny bit more water in this bag. When the bag is on its side, which it easily might have been during shipping, you can see here that the top of the fish is barely covered in water. So it is always good to have more air than it is water in the bag when you ship a fish. Obviously, there's enough water in the bag if it's held upright, but during shipping, it could have easily gone this way. And it looks like there's just barely enough water to cover the fish when he extends his dorsal rag when I have it that way. But you definitely do want more air than water in the bag, and that might seem counterintuitive. You know, obviously fish live in water, and they need oxygen, but they can't live in the air. But you want that extra air in the bag so that way the oxygen has a chance to continue, so that the gases have a chance to continue exchanging between the air and the water, and that there's enough oxygen for the fish to live during however long shipping might take. Now this was a 2-day shipment. Mike put this in the mail on a Monday, and I am receiving it on a Wednesday. I'm not sure when I'm going to get this video up, maybe Saturday, maybe not until Monday. We'll see. And this cellulose insulation also makes it very difficult to potentially float the bag and get it acclimated temperature-wise. So I might do something a little different than I normally do. What I might do is... no, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make sure that there's no insulation on the outside of the bag before I let it float inside one of my tanks. And even though I know this comes from a reputable source and is likely a disease-free fish, I am still going to go ahead and go through a quarantine procedure just because it's good habit to do so. Looks like there's a little bit of damage on his fin there. I wonder if that's something Mike ever noticed, or if that's something that could have happened while the fish was being shipped. I wonder, but there's definitely a leak in this bag. So, Mike wants to get into shipping fish, and he wanted to get rid of any fish that he can't breed in his own fish room, and he's not breeding rams. So he offered to send this guy to me as a trial run to make sure he had his shipping procedures down pat, and it looks like he is pretty much there. Everything looks about as good as I can expect. Hardly any better, hardly any worse than any other shipment I've received. And go ahead and buy some guppies from Mike if you like his guppies. He's got some awesome angelfish fry. He's just got an awesome channel too, so make sure you go check that out. So let me pause this, let me move one of my cameras and figure out what tank I'm putting this thing in. Getting distracted watching the Epistogramma Hongsloy tank over there. I got 3 cameras focused on this box and nothing available to turn around and look that way or that way. And this camera is still right in my way. Just like that one. Alright, let me pause everything, guys. Since the bag that Mike shipped in is leaking a tiny bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip the entire thing into another bag. Actually, what I'll do is I'll remove the outer bag that Mike had on here. And then what I like to do is you fold over the top of the bag a couple of times. And what I'm doing here is I'm trapping air in this little ring that I'm creating. So now this is almost like a buoy, like a life preserver. So now when I go to float the bag in the tank, that should be enough to make sure the bag stays afloat. So let's come over here, and I'm going to put this fish in this 10-gallon tank that used to house a couple of my Epistogramma. I've been monitoring this tank recently to make sure that the bacteria levels are still sufficient for a fish to survive. The ram's going a little crazy. Can't really see him too well through the bag there. But we're going to let him sit and want the water in his bag to reach the same temperature as the water in the tank before I put him into the tank. You don't want to shock him. Going from a very warm environment to a very cold environment can be very jarring. You know, it's like jumping into a bathtub full of ice water. You know, it can be a real shock to the system, and it can kill fish. A couple of degree difference isn't going to be too big of a problem, but you want to have that as close as possible. You don't need scientific accuracy. It doesn't need to be within 1/10 of a degree or anything. I like to keep it within a degree or so, but honestly, I think anywhere in you know, 3 to 5 to almost 6 degrees difference, Fahrenheit anyway, is probably going to be okay for the fish. It still might be a bit of a shock, but you know, you don't want to have a 10-degree difference, and anything larger than that can definitely spell disaster. It might not necessarily, but it very well could. So we're going to let that sit for a while, and I'll come back down here a little bit later on and release that fish. Alright guys, so here we are a little bit later. The fish has been floating long enough to be acclimated temperature-wise. So, I'm going to pop the bag open. You guys have probably seen me do this before if you've watched me ever do an unboxing. I like to pour out the water right into a net. And that way all the old water from wherever the fish came is now separate from the fish. And I can drop the fish right into its new home. And there he is. So it'll probably take a little while to get used to his new surroundings. And we'll consider this a quarantine tank for a little while. We'll give him a week. We'll give him some medications. Again, it might be unnecessary, but it's good practice just to do so. Quarantine any new fish into your fish room, even if you have a single fish tank. Might be difficult if you have a single tank. But you should have a hospital/quarantine tank if possible. I know sometimes that's easier said than done, but I have more than enough tanks. So it's not an issue for me. Boy, that really is a big ram. That thing's got to be 18 months old probably by now, which means it probably doesn't have all too much longer to live. Rams typically max out at about 2 years. It's one of the most frustrating things about keeping rams is their short lifespan, which kind of sucks. So now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll dose some of the API General Cure, as well as some of the API EM erythromycin. Again, just as a precautionary measure. I have no reason to think that there's anything wrong with this fish. It's weird, you can see the sensory pits on his forehead kind of pulsing as he's breathing. You know, as his gills are pumping water through his body, you can sort of see those sensory pits pumping, which is kind of interesting. I think he's just breathing real hard. Partly because he's in shock of a new surrounding. I'm just trying to measure out my scoop here. It's a full scoop for every 20 gallons, and this is a 10-gallon tank. So I gotta do a half a scoop. Excuse me. I'm still fighting this cold. It's killing me. Half a scoop, and then half a scoop of the next one. Half a scoop is very scientific. Roughly half. All right. So there he is in his new home, swimming through some meds. And that'll be that, guys. All right, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Make sure to go check out Michael's Fish Room, and I'll talk to you guys later.